We begin our show with updates from Mozambique. Protests continue in the southern African nation after the highly contested October 9th presidential election. The ruling Frelimo Party won the election by more than 70% of the vote. The Frelimo has extended its 49-year rule with the win. However, opposition parties have accused Frelimo of election fraud. The runner-up in the election, Venancio Mondlane, who won more than 20% of the votes, says he's the true winner. Mondlane is currently in hiding in South Africa, but he has been orchestrating nationwide protests in Mozambique since November. The protests have often turned violent, with both the Mozambican police and Mondlane supporters resorting to violence.
Soldiers show strength and they show that they are with us. They keep their faces covered because, as it said, they are afraid of the superior order, so they wear masks. But when they arrive, they say, "We are with you. We support the same cause." My protest is not vandalism. No, I am concerned with the future of the young people. What's going to happen with them tomorrow? That's what matters to me.
However, every time violence spikes in Mozambique, neighboring South Africa shuts down its main Lebombo border with the country. This has affected bilateral trade and people-to-people relations.
The most important thing is that the people coming in and out of this border are our livelihoods. But no, there is no one coming in or out here. Our lives are being affected because the Mozambican government is not reaching an agreement with its people. So the order the economy can stabilize.
Now, it's not just South Africa that's shutting its doors to Mozambique. Several foreign firms in Mozambique are also rethinking their future. 2 Australian firms have already decided to close their operations in Mozambique. They are now thinking of exiting the country. South 32 is a smelting company that is implementing contingency plans in Mozambique. Amid the ongoing post-election violence, South 32 has withdrawn its aluminium production forecast for the year. The mining and metals company says that roadblocks and violence are making the transport of minerals impossible. Another Australian firm, Syrah Resources, is struggling to continue with its graphite mining operations in Mozambique. Syrah Resources has declared a force majeure, which means the company may not be able to meet its yearly deliverables owing to external liabilities. The 2 Australian firms run mining operations in opposite sides of Mozambique. The South 32 aluminium smelting plant is just west of the capital, Maputo. The Syrah Resources graphite plant is in the north, in Balama. Both the Australian firms say that the protests, violence, and the shutting down of the border with South Africa routinely affect production, labor availability, transportation, logistics, and the security of the plants. The protests in Mozambique aren't just affecting the mining operations of the Australian firms, they are also impacting global investors. After the 2 companies announced the stoppage of their operations, shares of both the companies saw a drastic fall. While the shares of South 32 fell by over 2% since the announcement, the shares of Syrah Resources dropped by a whopping 28%. It's the largest slide in shares for the company in half a decade. The 2 companies have now demobilized most of their operational personnel from the mining sites. With Australian firms making an exit from Mozambique, it remains to be seen whether other international firms will also pack their bags and leave the country, as Mozambique struggles to contain the post-election turmoil. For more on this, we have with us Fredson Guilherme, a Mozambican political analyst, live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Hello. How is the civil unrest in Mozambique impacting the operations of major mining companies like Syrah Resources and South 32? And what are the potential economic implications for the region?
Thank you very much for having me. I think, as you clearly said in your piece, these companies are struggling to operate because they cannot transport the goods. The workers that cannot go to the sites, and also they cannot get important elements to run their own productions. So it's a complicated scenario, and most of these companies depend a lot. Mozambique depends substantially on South Africa to get equipment for operations, but also for transportation of the productions from these companies. For example, aluminium from Mozambique, Mozal aluminium gets transported to the global market through South Africa. So it goes from Maputo to South Africa. It's from there that it's then sent to Europe. And graphite also it needs to be transported from the site to points of transportation through railway, for example, or maybe through road. So this has been affected by the demonstrations. But I think this has to be not seen regarding only economically, because as you asked clearly, it affects the economy of the region. Lots of South African companies, the South African business community is suffering already from this context. But this needs to be located politically. It's part of the strategy of the leader of this movement to try to make it impossible for business to continue as usual, as a way to force the ruling Frelimo to concede in its demands. So it's a political, it's an economic implication of a political problem that needs to be resolved in Mozambique.
Okay, so while it's a political problem, it's also a human problem. Now, with these companies declaring force majeure, their production is getting affected. What steps are the companies taking to mitigate the risks and ensure employee safety?
Well, I'm not sure about the steps they're taking. I think they would be in the best position to answer to your question. But what I have seen from your piece and what I've read is one of the reasons why they are halting production is to guarantee also safety for their own workers. The safety of the site also, in my understanding, means safety of the workers and of the people. I hope that that's one of the objectives. But I think one of the other things that made these companies easily targeted by the demonstrators is the belief that they are connected to the elite on one side. On the other side, as you know, commodities like aluminium and also graphite, and speaking more generally, extractivism doesn't really create much jobs locally, and it doesn't really change the conditions of the people locally as it could be. So it is very easy to turn these companies as targets in this kinds of situation, because more than changing the lives of the populations positively, they result in grabbing of the territories of the communities, grabbing the lands, preventing access to water, and also violation of human rights. And Mozal aluminium has been accused of polluting the air in Maputo, and the companies producing graphite in Cabo Delgado have already been subjected to contestation by the local population because of violations of human rights of communities there. So it's very easy then in a context like this, where you don't create jobs, where you are highly connected with the local elite that is perceived to be corrupt, where you are accused of violating human rights, where you pollute the environment, it becomes very easy for you to be targeted by demonstrations.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it. And we'll come back to you when there are some more developments.
Thank you.
Thank you.